Pike doesn't cook this time. Spock flies around by himself in space, and we get a famous character returning to Star Trek.
Montgomery Scott at your service.
This ended in a cliffhanger that I didn't expect. Pop Tot, what did you think?
It was definitely the episode we thought we were going to get based off of the end of last episode with Patel.
I just got put on a priority 1 mission.
As we find out, I don't know what her priority 1 was, but she was on this planet that was, I don't know, it was kind of neat. It was like a hometown feel, but it was definitely a settlement, and she's there, and somehow Nurse Chapel's there because she's getting a ride to her new gig, and the Gorn show up. I really think that that's the same set that was used in Netflix Wednesday during the cello scene. It looks very much like the same town.
Interesting.
You looking for payback?
Payback, justice, vengeance.
When Patel was overlooking the city and you get to see all the kids playing, that whole thing reminded me of when Sarah Connor did that in Terminator 2, when she was like watching John play on like the playground.
No, you're absolutely right. And there probably was, because this really felt like a James Cameron love fest, because there's segments of aliens in it where they've got the Gorn tracker now, and you can hear that.
Look around.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then, of course, the episode ends in a cliffhanger that feels very much like Best of Both Worlds.
Mr. Worf. Fire.
We know that the writer strike's going on, the actor strike.
Yeah.
It could be over a year before we find out. And with Paramount, with Paramount cleaning Star Trek house, who knows, right? And that would like burn my soul. But overall, I really like this episode. It's what we were expecting, and it was, it's a short season. 10 episodes is a very short season. The Gorn is very scary. You got to see adult Gorns this time in spacesuits, which was kind of cool. There's aspects of it that are kind of like odd, like of all the people that survived on that saucer section, of course, Nurse Chapel was the one that survived.
She needed a spacesuit, turned around. Oh, there's a spacesuit right in the hallway. And I'm like, come on.
Actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, super easy.
I think my issue with this episode, basically my problem with all season 2, is it had so many things I liked.
Lieutenant Ortegas and Lieutenant Kirk.
That's a lot of lieutenants.
But then so many things that I was either confused or just didn't like at all. They kind of almost sometimes wrote themselves into goofy holes with the whole, the saucer section is stuck in space. We're going to use it to crash and hit this part of the Gorn ship that's doing this. So Spock shoots out with these space missile, and that's strong enough to move the saucer section, but the Gorn don't know anything about that because
they're trying to make it look like it's a.
All we have to do is find a way to get a piece of debris large enough to survive re-entry to crash into that structure.
Yeah,
it's going on its own. It's basically free falling.
And to have that built up, and then you just look out the window for like a second, and then the ship just hits the ground, and it was so underwhelming. I have to say, and I'm really curious what you're going to say as well as everybody else, I really like the guy they picked for Scotty.
Firstly, I jury-rigged the engines to increase their capacity, and secondly, I figured out how to hide in plain sight.
I did too.
I immediately saw him, and I was like, oh, it's going to be Scotty, and he's talking. I'm like, let's go. Okay, I did not expect that.
Montgomery Scott at your service.
He's really super stupid smart, much like the prior Scotties that we've seen.
Scotty, I can't change the laws of physics.
I really enjoyed his character, and and then of course the zombie character that kind of hides that they've been bit.
Happened yesterday.
it ends with a cliffhanger with us not knowing what her conclusion is. But that's the exact same thing that happened to Hemmer, that they killed Hemmer off. So it's like you're going to kill two potentially big characters with the same thing.
That's what Hemmer did, Chris. Hemmer. He understood.
He was brave.
It was kind of silly to me. And like you said, I hate the overplayed, cliched, I have something, but I'm not going to say anything about it.
You're telling me that thing just chose not to attack?
Let's not waste time questioning it.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
And yeah, because I thought, she's going to die defending the shuttle, or she's going to ram the shuttle into the beam thing that's hitting the planet. And no, they did that. And I'm like...
An unmitigated disaster.
The other thing that was a little confusing to me was that the whole diplomacy from the Federation and Starfleet in terms of what was going on with the Gorn.
Right.
How April was just...
This incident could spark a war between us and Gorn. Starfleet would like to avoid that.
At what cost? The Gorn attacked us.
The Gorn throws up this invisible this line of you cannot cross here, you're going to start a war.
On Starfleet's orders, we were holding to our side of the line.
And apparently the Federation's kowtowing to the Gorn on the fact that they've destroyed a Federation ship and all of its crew on board.
Right.
And they're currently snacking on the people on this planet. And the Federation is just going to be like, okay, well, yeah, you got us.
The Gorn attacked us.
They didn't attack us. They attacked a colony outside of our jurisdiction.
I was like, wait, but you've been telling us the entire time, not the entire time, but you've been telling us since the first episode of the season the danger of the Gorn, and now a Federation ship is destroyed and you got to remember, the Federation ships are not just full of humans, they're full of other species. You're just going to let that happen and draw the line in the sand there. And then the end of the episode, I know it was there for suspense and thrill, but Pike doing the Luke Skywalker, look outside, look at Sidious, look outside, look at Sidious. And it's like, dude, your ship is getting blown to hell. Could you make a decision? What are you doing?
And that's not Pike's character.
No,
I think it was for dramatic pause. It was for dramatic effect. But Pike has been built up as a character of action.
Or perhaps we chase you across the border and destroy you and get out before anyone's the wiser.
So what is it that you're suggesting, Captain? A good faith gesture.
Yeah, and his writing this season on his character, he's taken a back seat. He doesn't have that presence that he had in the first season. We saw that with his reaction towards M'Benga, and now this, where it's like, this does not feel like the Captain Pike we knew, or even a captain at all. And I was just a little bewildered by it, and I didn't really understand. And I know, again, they're setting up that emotional effect, and I've always said, if you can have an audience buy into your script and the emotion, you will forgo the logic of it. You'll excuse yourself of like, oh, that doesn't really make sense, because you're enjoying it. And I'm like, I'm not enjoying this or connected enough to just sit there and be like, oh, Pike is gonna take a minute while the Enterprise is getting blown to hell.
No, he's got a point.
So we're talking multiple cliffhangers. One is Patel is being put into stasis.
We'll also need a stasis field.
The Enterprise is being bombarded by multiple Gorn ships and getting their ass kicked. They haven't even fought back yet. Pike is wetting his diaper. And then you come to find out the people that were left on the planet, including La'an and M'Benga, they didn't get beamed up to the Enterprise. They got beamed up to the Gorn ship.
Colonists in the landing party appear to have been beamed up by the Gorn.
And it just like to be continued, ... And now, and the first thing that entered my soul was with the SAG strike and the writer's strike, you're looking at maybe 25 before we see another episode.
I said it was definitely a mixed bag for me. I am glad to see the Gorn returning and some of those homages that it does. And it does do pretty decently, but sometimes it just either feels a little hooky or I just cannot connect to it.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Despite some of the looniness behind that, the scene of is it Cuyahoga? The saucer section, them being in the saucer section and coming up through the destroyed bridge as it's going into the planet's atmosphere, and you can see all the cross sections and everything. That one to me was it was awesome.
I can see my house from here.
What would you rate the season finale of season 2 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds?
I'll give it an A- because it's what we've been asking for when it comes to the Gorn, and they crammed it into a final episode. Unfortunately, I would have much rather have seen this as like a 2-parter, so you don't have to wait that long. Cliffhangers of this magnitude are really hard to digest, especially when you're looking at a long outcome. I really liked the episode overall. I like that we got to see grown Gorn and their technology, and all we've ever seen of Gorn before is these vicious lizards. We got to see Scotty. Ortega's had a great scene in this with her landing the shuttle and making Pike almost throw up in his mouth.
Yeah, that was a homage to Insurrection too.
We must stabilize the damping field. Reroute emergency power.
And it kind of got me choked up because he looked over as she straightened the shuttle out, and he says, "You were born to do this."
You were born for this, Erica.
And she got this big old smile on her face. That was a great Ortega's moment, which I've been looking for. So overall, I'll give it an A-.
I'm going to be a lot more tough. I'm definitely going to be a C+. This is what I've been wanting, but I think that's where the buildup and disappointment comes from. Is I'm confused now why April and Starfleet and the Federation drew the line that they did, was kind of standing idly by as not only a ship was attacked, but it was destroyed, and a colony is being attacked. And I feel like some of the characters, again, kind of like Pike, was just kind of acting a little out of character to me. And they built up this kind of set piece with the saucer section hitting the planet, and it was something so brief that we only saw out of like the window for like a second. And I get budget has a huge play into that. It was just a little underwhelming. As much as I really did like what they did with Scotty, I did like a lot of the James Cameron references that we talked about. Leaving it on a cliffhanger, it's so tough. And then the problem I think Strange New Worlds has is that 10 episodes is a lot harder to hide when you do miss an episode or two. Back in the day when you had 20 episodes, you could screw up, and you had 20 something episodes. It was a lot easier to ignore it. It's like, okay, well, if we didn't have this episode, we could have had a conclusion, but neither here nor there. I think it was solid. It just wanted a little bit more. As usual, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. Please be sure to look out for upcoming videos. We would love to hear you guys' opinion going forward. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you guys on the next one.